Hey guys, this is going to be a big video because we are going to be refactoring how we do direct messages. Now that we have private channels, we can pretty much call how we're doing direct messages, refactor it, and underneath the surface, behind the scenes, we're going to be creating channels, but what the user thinks is that they're direct messaging users, so it's going to be pretty cool. But before we get into that, I noticed a small bug we introduced when we did private channels, and it's when you create a new user and you don't have any private channels. So I can come over here and try to make a public channel like, hey, blah, create channel, and it actually just crashes on me. And the reason for this is because I have no private channels. Here's the code that we're using to grab the channels. Notice how we are implicitly joining on this table PC members. We're doing that over here. The problem comes if we don't have any PC members. Implicitly, we're doing what's called an inner join, which means if we look at this, we want to do this type of join, a left outer join. Here's what we're currently doing in inner join. So if we don't have any elements in table 2, our table 2 is the PC members. So even if we have channels, if we have no private channels, it returns nothing because there's no in-between part. So we need to change this from doing the current implicit inner join to a left outer join, where we also get the channels that are public even if we have no private channels. But we still get the private channels if they do exist. So we're going to do a left outer join. And the way we're going to do this is now instead of from channels as C and then also grabbing it from that, we're going to say left outer join. And we're going to say on, and we can just bring this down, and we're going to copy the condition we have right here. So when the channel ID matches with the member channel ID, we want to match up. And then here all we're going to say is we can get rid of that part there. So now we're fetching the teams. The channels where we have the team ID like we want, and now we're just checking if it's public or if the user ID matches up if we're invited to that channel. And giving that a save, giving that a sec to refresh, that'll solve all our problems over here with the channels getting messed up. Okay, so you see all the channels I have now for this new user. Come over here, can create some more channels, and they pop up just okay. And none of them are private, and it still works. Alright, now let's get started on refactoring our direct messages. The first thing I want to do is use this component right here. Right now I have no other members on my team because I created a new user. So right now I just see myself, and I want to use this select members to invite other members in my direct message. So I want to see it here, because we don't want to just invite one member now. We can do multiple members, and we're able to do that easily because we're treating them as channels underneath the surface. And before we actually move it over, I also want to refactor how this works, because right now we're able to see ourselves, which there's really no reason to invite yourself to your own channel or direct message you're creating. So let's just filter that out. Okay, so we're good with this now. This is our multi-select users. We want to grab the current user ID and just filter on the list that we get. So filter teams where the team ID is not equal to current user ID. And now we need to pass the current user ID to our multi-select user, so that's in our add channel modal. So we're just going to pass in current user ID, but we actually don't have the current user ID in this component, so we need to pass it to the props current user ID. And so we're not passing it to the add channel modal either, so the component that calls this component needs to pass in the current user ID, which is our sidebar. So here I have to say current user ID, pass that in, and hey, look, our current user ID is not in our sidebar either, so we need to pass that in. So we're going to get this from the props as well. And so what calls our sidebar component? Well, that's our view team over here. And in our view team, we're going to pass that in, current user ID, and the current user ID is coming from this me query that we made, and that's just going to be the ID of the user, and I'm going to rename it to current user ID. And now let this refresh. We now should see ourselves an empty list because there's no other users on the team. Perfect. So now let's use that component in our direct messages. So we're actually just going to pretty much copy and paste our add channel modal into our direct message modal now, because a lot of the things are going to overlap. Now we don't need downshift, so I can actually just kill downshift all in one big swoop. And now the form field that we're going to show is going to be this guy right here, the multi-select. And I'm fine using the same values, set field, current user ID, all that stuff. And we don't need this. We're not going to worry about history here at least. And so we don't need downshift. We get rid of that. We don't need this query. We don't need GraphQL. We are going to be using Formic now with Formic. And actually, my bad, we do need GraphQL. We'll keep that there. We're just going to be doing a different query than what we were doing before. Before we were doing this get team members query, but we were not going to be using that. And we have a lot of higher order components now, so I'm going to use the compose higher order component, which allows us to just comma separate these guys like this. And because we're going to also add Formic to this component, I'm going to say with Formic, add in that, and we have one too many parentheses, and I think we're good now. Make sure we add a comma there, and we're going to be adding a new query that we're going to be running. It's actually going to be a mutation, and we only have a cancel button right now, so form.group. I also want a submit button, or a start messaging button, if you will. So on click, that should get handle submit. Handle submit's coming from Formic. So let's grab that. And it just doesn't like the way we're indenting. So let's import first our multi-select users. So multi-select users from the same multi-select users. This component is in this field. So we're going to grab that. And then we want to just pass in all the Formic props. So, and also we need current user ID. So Formic has all these guys, so give that a copy, paste them in, save, and then we're also need to, in our sidebar, we're passing in the current user ID. Do that for our direct message modal. We don't need handle change or handle blur. Our is submitting we can give to these two buttons, so is submitting, that's going to be disabled. So we disable it if we are submitting. Disabled is submitting. We're using set field here for our members, that's good. Select members to message. Reset form, we should be, I'll talk about that in a second actually. For now, I'm actually not going to do this GraphQL higher order component because we don't have a mutation that we want to run, and I'll talk about that in a second. We just want to basically console log what we select here. And I'm going to come over here and grab the Formic. There we go. Copy, paste it in. So this is all our Formic stuff, all our Formic props. We don't have a public or a name, we just have members. And the handle submit, we don't need all this junk in here quite yet. Give that a save. And this looks fine. Also, we want to reset the form when we're canceling. So I want to call reset form, and then I want to call onClose on E. give that a save. Okay, so when we're canceling, we're going to reset the form. Reset form's coming from Formic. This looks pretty good to me. We're not running any mutation when this runs, but let's just see if it looks okay. Again, since I have no users yet, I don't see any users I can select a message, so I'm going to create some users in a second so we can see this. But first I'm going to wire everything all together. So cancel. Now we need to add another column to one of our database fields, and that is for our channel. Because when I create a direct message, it should pop down here, not up here. So if I'm creating channels, I need to know whether this channel is for direct messaging or just a regular channel. So we're going to create another field called DM in our channel, which is going to pop right here. We're basically going to say if the channel is a DM channel, then it comes down here. Alright, so let's just come over to our backend, and this is going to be modals, channel. I'm going to just create another Boolean field. The default is false for this, and it's going to be called direct message. So by default, it is not a direct message channel. We have to specially create it. Now because we just added a field to this, we're going to have to go into our index over here and sync force true. So I'm going to lose all my data. So I'm going to have to come over here and go to register to create a new user now. And let's just make sure, cool, we're done forcing it. So Bob at bob.com. Okay, cool. So here's our team. So now I kind of want to, we'll split this in the UI in a second, but what do we want to happen when I select my users and then I click start messaging? So let's actually add a couple users so we can see that working, because we're not going to be dropping the database anymore. So I'll create Bob2, copy, paste, and let's create Bob3, Bob3. Okay, so two other guys, and I'm still logged in as Bob, and we'll invite those guys to the team. So invite Bob3, and we're going to invite Bob2, and now I'm going to direct message them. Cool. So I see them pop up. That's perfect. Now let's make sure everything is wired up, okay? So we can close this. What I mean by that is I want to just console.log values.members. So when I submit, I should see, and we can just get rid of that for now. What should happen is I should console log values.members. So I should see the members that I selected, at least their IDs. So Bob3, start messaging, perfect. So this is the ID of Bob3. Now originally I thought what I would do is just call the create channels mutation that we created, passing our members here, and then just automatically create the name based on the people that are in the channel. But there's one small problem with that, and that is, what if I open up direct message, I come over here, select Bob3, Bob2, and I start messaging them. So I just created a channel with both of them, and then I come back to here and I start messaging again. Then I would create two channels with the same users, and we don't want that. So really we need to create a new mutation, and what it does is it finds a channel if it exists, and if the channel does not exist, then we create it. So it's going to look at these two users, search for our database. If we have a channel already created between these two users, a direct message channel specifically, and they're the only two members, then we're going to just return that. Otherwise, we are going to create a new one. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is come back to our schema in our backend. So channel over here, we're going to call this get DM channel. and I'm just going to pass in the members, and that's going to be an array of ints, and what we're going to return is an int. So the int that we're going to return is, we're either going to find the channel and return the channel ID of the channel that we've already created, or we're going to create a channel and pass the ID back, and then that's what we're going to be using to show the users. So that's what get direct message channel is going to do. We could call it get or create channel. Save, and then let's create the actual resolver. So we can copy this, get or create channel, pass in here. So we need to obviously be authenticated, so we're going to do requires auth around this. So how are we going to know if the members, so args here, the only args is members, which is an array of IDs, and we could say const real members. Actually, you know what, I was going to say, let's just push on to this members.push, and we're just going to add the user's ID, the current user ID, so user ID. So the members that they select, and then we're also adding the current user. Those are all the members. So first we're going to check if channel already exists with these members, if direct message channel. So the way we're going to do this is by doing a special query. So I'm going to say const response is equal to await modals.sequelize.query, and we'll run the query here. So I actually fiddled around with creating this query for a little bit, and here's what I came up with. I'm going to copy this and explain it over here how this works. So paste it. So the first thing we're going to do here is we want to get the ID, right? So I'm selecting c.id, where c is from channels, so from channels, where group by is what we're going to be doing, and then having, and I could capitalize those. Okay, so let's walk through this. So the end result of what I'm going to be getting is the ID of the users, or of the channel, I mean, sorry. The channel that has the DM channel that's created. Now I also needed to add to our where clause where channel.dm is equal to true. And also, yeah, so that's good. And we also need to do grab the team ID from this as well, actually. So team ID. So c.teamid is equal to team ID. So a couple other where clauses here, but okay. So we're looking at channels and private channels, and the reason for that, or the reason why we need to look at private channels, is because of course direct messages are going to be private channels. So here, you know, we could add so we're making sure that channel.dm is true. We could also check c.public is equal to false. So another condition for us to check there. So we're joining these two tables on this, and in this case we're fine doing an implicit join, inner join, because we're only looking for private channels, so that's good. And then here we are finding the ones that are direct message channels and that are not public and that are inside the team that we want. And so we're going to pass as a parameter the team that we want. So all that should be left just from this bit here, filtered down, is the channels that are private direct message channels in our team. And then from that, we just need to verify if the direct message channel it contains these members. So to do that, we're grouping by channel ID, and we're looking at each channel. And what we're doing is we're grouping together. That's what array aggregate does. This is an aggregation function by Postgres that we're using, and what that allows us to do is take this list and put it into array basically. So we have an array of user IDs. These are all the user IDs that are in the current channel that we're looking at, so that we grouped by. And then this is a little special symbol by Postgres. What that means is contains, so it's this thing right here. And what we're basically doing, and this is going to be a parameter as well. We can actually just like pass this in here like that. We're just going to do members.join, and we're going to do comma on that guy. So we're saying, does this channel contain all the members that we have here? And then we also need to just check and make sure the length of the array, or the count of that list, is equal to the number of members we have. So that way we have members.length here. And we could we need to do substitution, because actually we could just plug in the team. We're already doing string substitution here and here, so we can just sub this into. So this is another way you can do it. You don't have to do SQLized substitutions. You can just do a string template like this, and this is a little bit simpler. Downside to this is nothing's getting escaped, but notice these are all numbers, so we're safe. And we're type checking both of them. And let's come back over to our schema real quick. Team ID int. So we're safe from SQLized injection here, but if these are strings, you want to make sure you do replacements with how they do it. And we're going to do raw here, or with the SQLized replacements. So this is going to grab, this is going to grab the channels, or the channel. Check if the channel already exists, right, with these members. So this is a pretty complex query. This is probably our most complex one that we've created. And what's going to get returned from this is hopefully just one channel with the ID, or nothing. And since this is our first time running it, I'm just going to console log and see what we get from this response, and I'm going to return 1. So I'm going to save this, make sure this all works. Not sure, something went wrong because this thing is complaining. So we have that, and I think I just need to close it. Yeah, there we go. I'm setting raw equal to true because I don't want any SQLized junk coming back. Okay, so let's run this, see what happens. Get or create channel. So it's going to be in our direct message modal. And now we can add GraphQL. And I'm just going to say const, and we should grab the team ID here from the props. I'm going to say const response is equal to await, and this is going to be our mutation, which is going to be mutate, and that's coming from the props as well. And variables, from our values we're going to have members, so members and team ID. And here we're just going to console log the response so we can see what we get. This looks good. Let's finish our query here. So it's going to be, say, const get or create team, channel, GQL, and we need to import that. So here we're going to be doing a mutation, 2 variables, members and team ID. So team ID, which is going to be an int, and members int, and that's going to be an array. And then we're going to call get or create channel, and that we should call that mutation. Get or create channel mutation, and we're just going to pass in our team ID, which is team ID. And because we're only selecting or not selecting, because we don't have to add a selection is what I mean, and the reason for that is we're just returning an integer. So team ID members passed in here. Let's give this a try. Let's see what happens. Looks like there's an error. Could have just been refreshing still. Looks like it was. So Bob 2 and Bob 2 and Bob 3. So I'm going to start messaging. The response from this should be an empty string or an empty object from our query, but we got an error. Looks like we just have a syntax error in our thing over here in our query. So comma, what syntax error near, or here, I'm just going to copy this, come over here to sequelize, run it. That'll probably be the easiest. Where's CID? This should be all ands, not commas. And. Okay, let's give this a try again. And I think we're just still reloading on our server side. I always refresh this way too fast. Okay, our response should be 1. Cool. Let's look at the server's response. Looks like we got an array with the first one object being an empty array. So I'm guessing we look at that. So I'm going to say result and then data. So we're going to basically destructure this. So this will be in our data component, or sorry, variable, and this bit will be in result. And we don't really care about result. I think this is where our data is going to be. And so here we're going to say, come down here, and of course we want to console log data and result actually, so we can continue seeing it. If data.length, and we'll say not, then here we want to create a channel. Otherwise we actually just return. So if data.length, we're going to return data 0, right? And I think that's .id, I'm guessing, is what we do. We'll have to see. But if we have data, we're going to grab the first one, which is and then grab the ID from that and return that. That's going to be our channel. Otherwise, we need to create this channel. So to create this channel, what we need to do is pretty much run what we have right here. And we're also doing this little check at the beginning of our create channel. So maybe we should do this check. We'll add some authentication at the end. Let's get it working first. I think that's better. So we need to add all these members to our channel. So we're going to be doing something like this. So let's copy that. So we're going to be doing a transaction. We're going to create a channel. And here are the things. So what do we need to supply to our channel? Let's look at our channel model. So the name, for now, I'm just going to set the name to hello. We're going to come back and fix that, but I want to get the rest working. Public is going to be false. So public, false, and then DM is true. And I believe we need to pass, okay, we also need to pass a team ID, I believe, to tell it which team ID we're associated with. So team ID, it's just going to be team ID. So good. And then here, so if args is not public, we already know by default it's not going to be public, so we don't even need to do that if statement. Here it's trying to find the members. We don't need to do this. We already have the members. Here it's mapping through the members. Okay, so when we create the channel, we want to just add the members to our channel. That's what's happening right here. this looks good, user ID, all this looks fine, and then we bulk create the members. This looks fine to me. And then we're going to return response, because response is going to be, we'll return response.id, right? And actually, you know what, let's just return, this will be channel ID. Channel ID, return that. Channel ID. And then our return value here is going to be dot data values. And you know what, why don't we just say const CID, because it's not changing, so we only get it once. We don't have to keep referencing it. And then that's what we're going to return as well. Okay, so let's give this a try now. So we should be creating our channel, our direct message channel, with these two guys. So start messaging. Alright, looks like we created the channel. Let's see if there's any errors or anything. No, no errors. So now, when I create it again, start messaging, I should get a return 2. Perfect. And notice how we get our result has an ID of 2. We grabbed that and returned it. So it looks like it's working perfectly right now. Now you notice nothing's popping over here. What's going on? I want to say if I refresh, we see hello here. So now on our UI, we just need to bring hello down here, right, and feed it into direct messages. Oops, that's going to be in our sidebar here. So we basically just need to do a little bit of a split. So we're going to say const team.channel. So we're going to say const non-DM channels, we'll say regular channels is equal to an empty array, and const DM channels is another. And then here we're just going to loop through team.channels, and we're going to say for each team, and we'll say if t.dm else we do this. And we also need to select DM. We need to remember to do that. So if it is a direct message channel, then we're going to say, oh, and this should be channel, right? So that should be a C. So DM channels dot push C. Otherwise, it's going to be regular channels dot push. Give that a save. And we just need to change our team query over here and grab channels.dm. And in our schema down here, we need to support that. So it's going to be channel, that's our resolvers. Here, we're going to have a DM field, which is a Boolean. Cool. So now we need to actually pass those accordingly. So regular channels should go here. So regular channels. So now I should see it not show up. Alright, cool. So I see our channel not show up. And it should show up below. So we need to pass DM channels to over, where is that? I guess users. So instead of users, it's going to be DM channels now. So DM channels. So then in our channels component, we need to handle this differently. So instead of users, we're going to call this DM channels. Over here, DM channels dot map DM channel, passing in pass in the DMC and DM channel. We're gonna have to rename this up here now, DM channel. So instead of an ID and a username, we're just gonna have an ID and a name, and we'll show the name here. This kind of messes with our little bubble thing though, but that's another whole message. Okay, so hello pops up here now. Ooh, interesting. When we click that, it pops up there. Oh, because that's our direct messages right now. And we didn't change that. Okay. So we have this mostly working, but there's a lot of things we have to clean up. But this video is getting very long, so I'm going to pause it here, and then we're going to finish wrapping everything up in the next video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.